Yo, what is up? It is your boy Zether. Now, as you can see from the title, this is going to be the finale to What If Deku Had Jake Long's powers. I know, boys. This series, it's pretty special, and you guys did end up liking, smashing the like button. However, this is going to be ending today. Sadly, I know. Sadly, it's going to be ending today. But I hope that this finale does not disappoint, guys. Before we get started, I just want to say a couple of things. Sorry that this thing hasn't came out. It's been about 5 days. I was planning on actually releasing it the next day, but, I was actually busy that day. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into the recap and then get started. Okay, boys. So, on the last part, we had essentially gone over the entirety of the Stain arc, as well as the finals, the race, and we had basically gotten into the entirety of what is known as the, the Force Training arc. Now, things would drastically change from the original, however, as we had essentially left off with Muscular going in to kill Koda before Deku could come in. And we're going to go ahead and jump right back into this, as Muscular would strike at Koda, as Deku would swoop in, and he would have almost been too late. But out of nowhere, he would have gotten a sort of a boost from One For All, pushing himself to the max, as he would have then swooped in and grabbed Koda, as Muscular would have then been blown by the simple gust of wind that would have came right off of Deku's body as he would have blitzed him. This is when Deku would have gone in to save Koda and said, "Are you okay?" As Koda would say, "Yeah." As Muscular would say, "Get back here." Now this is when Deku would stare at Muscular as he then says, "You're done for." As he would then rush at Muscular, and he would then freeze his entirety of his body, as he would then shoot a giant attack of ice at him, as Muscular would then be frozen. This is when Deku would then break the ice, as Muscular then dies right in front of him. But Koda, he's not aware of this. Deku would have essentially pushed him off the cliff, as the ice would have broken and Muscular would have died. As Deku would have be thinking, good riddance. Psych, y'all really thought? Come on now, this version of Deku would never. I'm playing. Come on, he was pissed, but he did not kill this man. That being said, he had basically, frozen him, just like I just said. And, a little some. Now, I just felt like trolling you guys a little bit, so I decided to throw that in there, make you guys think that this boy was about to become evil, but just kidding. I mean, it's not evil since, he probably did deserve it, but you guys get the picture. Now, this is when Deku would essentially take Koda with him, as Deku would be flying with Koda, as he then runs into Dark Shadow, who's at the moment going berserk, just like he had done in canon. This is when Deku would see this, as he would shoot fire breath at it, as Tokiyami would go back to normal. This when Shoji as well as Tokiyami would begin to talk, as they would say, "Thank you." As Shoji would thank him for everything that he had done, because if it wasn't for him, he might have actually died to his friend. Now, this is when Deku would proceed to say, "We gotta find Bakugo. That's who they're here for. We have to save him." As Deku would look at them and they would say, "Right." This is when they would rush in at Bakugo and Todoroki, as Bakugo and Todoroki at this moment would have actually been doing just the same as they would have done in canon, except at the moment, Deku would have rushed in and shot a giant attack of fire at the moonfish as it melts his metal teeth and he falls down to the ground. He would try to regenerate them, shoot new ones, but Deku would freeze him instantly with his ice breath, as he would stay there still. He would explain the situation to Bakugo as he's in like, "What? They're here for me," as Deku's just like, "They're here for you, Bakugo. We gotta get out of here." As Bakugo would be like, "Right." Now, this is when Deku would proceed to, talk to Bakugo as they're running around. As out of nowhere, whatever his name is, the little magic guy would have came in and stolen Tokiyami as well as Bakugo, as he would have taken them both just like he did in canon. As Deku and the rest would arrive to save Uraraka and Tsuyu, as Toga would have run away, as she knows that this is not going to end good for her if she doesn't leave. Oh, sorry about that. As Deku would then say, "Yeah, we're here protecting Bakugo." As she would say, "Bakugo's not there." As Deku would say, "What are you talking about? He's right." As Deku would look back and see that Bakugo's not there, so he would see that, the magic user, I guess you could say, would be running around, taking his hat off and putting it back on. Just kind of, I don't know what it's called, but he would basically, out of a sort of like foolery or respect is what it really is, he would tip his hat basically. As Deku would see that as he would fly at max power, using about 80% of One For All, he then blitzes over there. Deku would then almost grab him as he would then fling the balls as Tokiyami's spear would have fallen onto the ground and Tokiyami would have been released as Bakugo. Now Bakugo would have ended up very different. Bakugo's would have actually fallen onto the ground as Deku would have seen that that's going on. Now, as this is happening, Deku would look at that as Deku would say, no, I have to save him. As Deku would stare at him as he then says, as he would then push his body to the max using 100% as he would blitz right into the portal as Dabi is cut off guard. As Deku would blitz in there as he would then immediately rush in at all of the villains with, Bakugo's help. As they would proceed to take everybody out. Just like the heroes had done. Using swift motions as Deku would then be like, he would then be a little tired out as Bakugo's breathing heavy as he had just used the max power explosion to try to take them all out as fast as possible. As Deku and Bakugo would just be staring. Now this is when All For One would have his portal appear out of nowhere. As he would then start laughing, just saying that they're just two children. They can't do anything against him. As Deku and Bakugo would get into a fighting position as Deku would then rush at Bakugo as he then taps him on the neck, knocking him out. As Bakugo would have fallen straight down as Deku then says, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't have been much of a help. This guy's too powerful. As Deku would then proceed to create a couple of clones. As all of his clones would proceed to shoot some scales at All For One that he would just blow away with a gust of wind. As Deku and All For One would get into a very heated battle as All For One would have used a massive attack blowing a certain portion of the city up. As there would have been many casualties. As Deku would just be in horror as All For One would have done that without any hesitation. Murdered families, children, everybody. This guy had no regard for life. As Deku would then stare at him as he would then say that he's not going to hold anything back. This went out of nowhere. Deku, manga spoiler by the way, would activate the quirks that he would basically get in the original version in the manga. All of the quirks would activate as one, as Deku would proceed to blitz over as All For One, as he would then take him out in a very swift motion, shooting a very strong breath of ice at him that it would basically make Bakugo get frostbite as his body would turn nothing but purple as it would fall and collapse as Deku wouldn't have actually been able to control himself, taking him out immediately. This time, killing All For One before he could even give the quirk to Shigaraki. As this happens, the heroes would have basically been alerted as they would have arrived to the scene, as a news helicopter would travel over Deku in his dragon form, standing over All For One, as they're filming everything. This is when Deku would have a giant roar, animalistic battle cry, I guess you could say, as Deku would then fall into the ground as he's immediately just tired. He is exhausted, as this would have been way too much for him. Now the cleanup would have essentially gone as canon, except this time, Deku would be regarded as a hero. He would have saved everybody. He took down All For One, and All Might would be just proud at his student, at the fact that he was able to do what he could at his age. He could have never dreamed of taking out All For One. As Deku would smile, thinking that nothing's going to happen to him, as All Might would say that no, he's going to take full responsibility for that. As All Might would then make a statement and say that, it was basically like the hero's fault. Deku shouldn't be faulted, and they would basically take the blow for him as a little bit of a favor for saving Bakugo and, avoiding that whole situation from happening. Now, everybody would just be like, okay, but just don't let it happen again, as this would basically go into the little, this would essentially lead us into the, I believe it's the Shisaki arc. Yes, it is the Shisaki arc, because after that we have to clean up, and then they go back to school, they meet Mirio. Yeah, it's the Shisaki arc. Now, this is when Deku would arrive back to class. Now, this is when Mirio would step in and he would say, oh, you're that kid. You took down All For One. As Deku says, hey, what's your name? As Mirio would say, name is Mirio, Togata Mirio. As Deku would say, name's Izuku Midori. As they'd begin to talk, and Mirio would tell him that he knows about his his secret power. As Deku would be like, how do you, as Mirio says, I was a candidate for it once. As Deku would say, oh, that makes, as he would be like, what, candidate? I don't remember, knowing anything about a candidate. He would then stare at All Might, as All Might would be like, gotta go. And this is when Mirio would just be like, yeah. Now, as this is happening, Melissa would step in and she would say, hey, as Mirio would say, this your friend, as Deku would say, my girlfriend. But you were almost on the money. As Mirio would say, oh, I see you got yourself a little bit of a girlfriend. Future number one hero, and you got yourself a girl already? As Mirio would then begin to have a little bit of small talk with him. Now, this is when Mirio would proceed to do what he had done to the class, just like in canon, telling them that he wants to fight, whooping everybody except for Deku, since Deku didn't have to participate in that, since Mirio would have actually told Aizawa that if they were to fight, he's almost positive that Deku would whoop him, as he says that it wouldn't make too much of a point if he loses to them. As Aizawa would understand, and he would let Mirio not fight Deku. As that happens, Deku would basically be told about Tsunade. As Deku and Mirio would proceed to be like, okay. And this time, however, Melissa would have actually been very intrigued by the notion of Tsunade, since she knows that his quirk entails looking into the future, meaning that he has to be a sort of like, premonition or, knowing what's going to go on next type of fighter. Since there's no way that, this could be the case that he could, be this great of a hero if he wasn't. As she would proceed to basically say that she wants in. As Deku would say that that's completely fine, as they would both, in this version of events, actually end up going to Tsunade's agency. Things would essentially go to canon with Rose and Deku overpowering Nade and getting the signature, since, there was nothing that he could have done about it, but he still wanted to see their power for himself. As Tsunade would have definitely looked into the future and seen that regardless of what he does, he wasn't going to be able to take them out. As this would proceed to lead us into the little, hero walking, as Deku and Mirio would basically proceed to be walking out. Now, this one they would be doing a little bit of hero patrol with Rose, by the way, as Deku and Rose would have their hero costumes, as Deku would just be in some normal clothes, and Rose would have her body armor that was actually improved, this time being able to give her about 50% of One For All's power. Not exactly One For All, meaning no extra quirks, none of that. It would essentially only give her the strength of it, with the speed and endurance to go along with it, because the suit actually takes in a lot of the impacts of the blows. It's a sort of nanotech technology, I guess you could say. Now, this is when Eri would run around the corner. She would say, "Hey, As he would rush into Deku, and Deku would say, "Hey, are you okay?" As he would see that she's trembling. I mean, what kind of a little girl would do this? Like what is going on? As Deku would just be like looking towards the alleyway, as he would see Overhaul, as he would then stare and see who he is exactly. As Overhaul would see Deku, as he's immediately just thrown off guard, as he's like, no, if this kid realizes who I am, I'm done for. As Overhaul would proceed to act nice, no bloodlust, no nothing, no ill will. As he would then walk up to Deku as he's going in to touch him, but before he can, Mirio would actually punch him away, telling Deku that in that moment he could have died. As Deku's just like, I know. Thank you for saving me. I was gonna attack back, but thank you for having my back, as Mirio would say, sure thing. This one, Mirio and Deku, as well as Rose, would proceed to overwhelm Overhaul, as he would be taken in by the authorities after they would get into a very simple, about 20-second battle, in which Overhaul tries to delay the inevitable, but, you got Rose, 50%, you got Mirio, permeation, very hard to counter, and then you got Deku, 100%, all the quirks, dragon form, fire and ice, come on now, you're not getting out of it. Like, it's just simply not happening, bro. Like unless you got the strongest plot armor in the world, that's just, I'm sorry, but it's just not happening, my guy. Now, this is when, we would have a little bit of a little dope of a moment, as, Deku would proceed to basically take him in. Now, in terms of everything else that would have happened in canon, that essentially would actually basically go as it did in canon, with Eri having her little recovery thing, the gentle criminal arc, that would go by in a breeze. Deku would actually not forget anything. He would actually not forget any of the supplies. And in terms of taking him down, he would have essentially shown up and announced that he was there, as Deku would shoot a fireball at him that would have taken him out instantly. This is where I will be concluding this story. I know the ending was a little bit of a short one, but guys, I didn't really have too much to work with, sorry, my mic fell. Offer One would have basically been taken out way sooner than in the canon. Shisaki, what is he gonna do? Oh, also, I can't end it without, establishing Deku and Rose. Deku and Melissa would have actually ended up getting married. Melissa would have opened her own agency that would be very, very tech-based, alongside with Deku, and they'd be a sort of couple team, where Deku and Melissa are always seen together, and Deku would have rose the ranks to become the #1 pro hero, as Melissa would actually have became this #4 behind Bakugo and Todoroki, as, you know, I don't think that she would have actually been able to keep up with all of them. But that being said, guys, this is going to mark the conclusion to what if Deku had Jake Long's powers. If you guys enjoyed it as much as I did making it, make sure to go down below in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this. Let me know if you liked the series. Let me know if you liked the ending. And that being said, this has been your boy Zether. Out.